Hey guys, Josh here. As usual, I am really excited for us because if you watched last week's nutrition video, you learned how to calculate the calories that you need to achieve your goals of either weight loss or weight gain. Today, we're going to look at how to take those calories and break them down into the three major macronutrients, and these are carbs, fats, and protein. In addition, I'll be showing you how to read nutrition labels and use a food scale. So let's get started. Let's start off by defining what a macro is, since I'm going to be using that term a lot. If you didn't know, there are three major nutrients that we need to eat on a regular basis. These are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Now, these three are frequently referred to as macros because in the Greek, macro simply means large, and we need to eat these three nutrients in larger quantities compared to any other nutrients, hence the term macros. Now, the other thing to know is that 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories, 1 gram of protein is also worth 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. Breaking down macros can be a little complicated since there's some math involved. Personally, I like to start with protein using 0.75 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight. For example, if you weigh 200 pounds, you're going to be looking at 175 to 200 grams of protein per day. The next step is to calculate your grams of fat. I'll take the body weight and multiply that by 0.305. Looking at our example of 200 pounds, this would come out to 70 grams of fat. At this point, all your remaining calories would be composed of carbohydrates. Now, we figure out that number by simply dividing the remaining number of calories we have by 4. Let's take a look at how this would break down. Last week, we had John use his TDEE calculator, and he got 2,350 calories. He subtracted 500 calories from that so he could lose roughly 1 pound of body weight per week, and he was left with 1,850 calories. When we use the macro formula breakdown that we just talked about, it looks something like this. As we said before, we're going to start off with protein. So since John weighs 200 pounds, we're going to take his weight of 200 and times that by 1 to get our grams of protein. So John's going to be eating 200 grams of protein every day. Now, to figure out the calories, we're going to multiply 200 times 4, since we know that there are 4 calories per gram of protein. This comes out to 800 calories. Next, we're going to look at fat grams. We're going to take John's body weight of 200 pounds and multiply that by 0.35, and that gives us 70 grams of fat. Since we know that there are 9 calories per gram of fat, we're going to multiply 70 times 9 and we get 630 calories. Now, the only thing we have left is to calculate John's carbohydrate intake for the day. We figure that out by taking his total calories of 1,850 and subtracting that from the total of his protein plus his fat. So we're going to take 800 plus 630 and subtract that from 1,850. That leaves us with 420 calories remaining. We're going to divide that number by 4 because there are 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. That leaves us with 105 grams of carbs. Now that John knows exactly what his macros are, the next step is to learning how to track them properly. Let's move over and learn how to read a food label as well as use a food scale. So today, I'm going to show you how to read some food labels, and we'll track our macros while making a high-protein chicken quesadilla for lunch. So when it comes to making the food, we're going to start off with the tortillas. Now, these are, like I said, nothing special. I buy them at bulk in Sam's or Walmart. Now, looking at the nutrition label, and you see where it says serving size. Now, this is very important to pay attention to because all products have serving size that vary. Thankfully, it's easy since our serving size is just 1 tortilla. At the top, we see how many grams of fat. About halfway down, we see the carbohydrates. And finally, at the bottom, we see the grams of protein. On a random note, don't concern yourself with the calories at the top of the label. Food labels have a tendency to round up. And in our example of the tortillas, if you add up all the macros, you get 188.5 calories where the packing says 190. Moving along, we next have the cheese. Now you can use regular or fat-free, and personally I like fat-free cheese just to save 5 grams of fat for either a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or some Mexican. Now our cheese serving size is 1/4 of a cup or 28 grams, or 1 ounce if you live in America. Now we're going to need to weigh our cheese out and get the macros correct. I usually do 1.5 ounces or 42 grams of cheese. This means the macros on the cheese label will need to be multiplied by 1.5. Last, we have the chicken. I usually try and go for about 8 ounces of chicken when logging food, and I always do post-cooked weight. There's pre-cooked and post-cooked, and I like to do post-cooked. I feel it's more consistent than pre-cooked. And chicken usually presented in a serving size of 4 ounces. This means we're going to double the macros of our chicken. All right, so now that we know what food we're gonna be using, let's put our tortilla together and get mowing down, and then we'll track our macros afterwards. So as usual, I like to start off with the tortilla and lay down about 1/2 to 3/4 of an ounce of cheese. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure our food scale is off. You're gonna put the food on top of it and turn it on. This way, with your food on it, it starts as 0, and I found that this is the best way to weigh food. Now I'm gonna take out roughly 7/10 of an ounce of cheese and put it on my tortilla. So I'm gonna pull it out. As you can see, I'm at 0.6 ounces. So I'm gonna do a little bit more. There we go, 0.8 ounces. So I've got my first layer of cheese down here. Next is the chicken. So I'm gonna take my cheese off, put my chicken on, and zero it out again. Most food scales have a 0 out button that you can push. As you can see, we're 0, 0 again. Now I'm gonna take little chicken slices out until I see 8 ounces there on the food scale. We're at 3, 4, 5.5, about 6.5, 6.7, whoops, man down, 7.7, 8.1, so we'll throw a little bit back in there, 8.0, there we go. So our chicken's all laid out for our tortilla. We have 8 ounces of chicken there. Next, I'm gonna throw my cheese back on, zero it out again, and I'm gonna throw another 3/4 of an ounce of cheese on top. So again, we've got, that's about 6/10 of an ounce. And then another 7/10 of an ounce, and that should be good. So all we're gonna do at this point is just fold it on over, tuck it in nice and tight, and then throw it onto our pan and let the sides start crisping. And that'll just sit there for about 5 to 6 minutes, and then we'll flip it over and grill the other side. Now that we have all the info figured out, let's take a look at the macros of this quesadilla. First, we have our tortilla. There are 32 grams of carbohydrates, 4.5 grams of fat, and 5 grams of protein. Next, we have our cheese that we multiplied by 1.5. So there's basically 1 to 1.5 grams of carbs, no grams of fat, and 9 grams of protein. But since we multiplied that by 1.5, it's gonna come out to 13.5 grams of protein. And then the last is chicken. There's no carbs, 2 grams of fat, and 22 grams of protein. Again, since we did 8 ounces, we're gonna multiply this by 2. And this gives us 44 grams of protein and 4 grams of fat. Now that we have the individual macros for everything, let's combine it all together and get the total calories and macros for our quesadilla. First, we have 33.5 grams of carbohydrates, which is 134 calories. We have 8.5 grams of fat, which is 76.5 calories. And then we have 62 grams of protein, which is 248 calories. And this is a grand total of a 458.5 calorie quesadilla. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this video helpful or have any questions, please leave a comment below. Hopefully you all have a joy-filled, blessed week, and I'm gonna mow down on this quesadilla. We'll see you next time.
Come to me, sweet nut sustenance. Syntax.